He confesses to Chidi that he's not a monk named Jianyu, and he's not supposed to be there. Interestingly, they end up pushing Chidi so hard that he actually starts to think he's being punished, which makes Eleanor cry. There's a great moment from Chidi when he says, "I made God cry?" Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking another episode of The Good Place. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm going to give you an agenda. We start with a couple facts or tidbits that I found out about the show that I call the Potent Notables. Then I go into the episode overview, which is just me talking about the show from beginning to end. And then I do the rank, where I rank the episode on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, in 5 categories, all to find out what is the best sitcom of all time. We take a sitcom, we rank every single episode of that sitcom, and then the average rankings are the series ranking. So without further ado, today we're going to be ranking the 3rd episode of the 4th season, titled Chillaxing, written by Aisha Muharrar and directed by Anya Adams. Now, if you're enjoying these episodes or you're just enjoying consuming content about The Good Place, please consider subscribing and or following, like the episode, comment. You can send me an email at info@therankpodcast.com with suggestions, questions, comments, whatever. I will respond to you. And if you really want to support us super duper bad, you can become a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. Now, for sitcom series that have been out for a long time, like this one's been available on Netflix for a while, now it's on Prime. Either way, you can watch it. I'm not going to worry about spoilers, so that's your spoiler alert. Spoilers are ahead. But let's find out how this one ranks, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
So this episode aired Thursday, October 10th, 2019. Amazingly, The Good Place lost another 200,000 viewers, going from 2.113 million viewers to 1.924 million. That's not great. At least it beat a rerun of Legacies on the CW, I suppose, but it got killed by everything else. Million Little Things on ABC had 4.321 million, Mom on CBS had 5.784, and the winner of the night, Thursday Night Football, had 15.947. Of course, it was the Patriots beating the Giants 35-14 when Brady was still on the Pats, but Daniel Jones was the starting quarterback for the Giants, and I just did not realize how long Daniel Jones has been around. Also, Brady didn't throw a touchdown, but did throw an interception. I feel like there can't be many games where you can say that. Anyway, The Good Place also lost the viewership numbers of those that watched the game not on Fox, but on NFL Network, which were 2.593 million. Of course, it lost to Maddow and Hannity as well, but Hannity was off the freaking charts. It beat Million Little Things as well. Like, what the hell? What? Why? Anyway, let's go to the next Potent Notable, and that is that Eleanor mentions, quote, a car you can key or a house you can Left Eye Lopez. Now, in 1994, Lisa Left Eye Lopez got into an argument with her football star lover, Andre Rison, and burned down his house. Now, Lopez later claimed she simply meant to burn a few of Rison's shoes, not the entire house. Either way, fun stuff. All right, so let's go to the last Potent Notable, which is, and for those of you who have watched for a while, you know we like to do the Tahani name-dropping tracking. And this week she mentions that she ran into Robbie Williams, Heidi Klum, and some members of Fifth Harmony. She apparently impressed upon Timothée Chalamet that he needs to go out in the sun, despite seemingly getting a lot of pushback about it, which was a goofy little bit. She also was invited to Leonardo DiCaprio's birthday party on Paul Allen's yacht by Blake Lively. And it can also be inferred that she name-dropped Scarlett Johansson or Natalie Portman or both when talking to John off screen, because she tells him as they're coming out of the spa that she knows that Natalie Portman does all of Scarlett's stunts. So there you go, those are all the Potent Notables. Let's move on to the episode overview. So we lead off the episode with everyone being super hopeful. Apparently Chidi has started up his study group again, which feels a little unlikely because why would he? But this hope starts to turn to desperation as we find out that Chidi has just as quickly canceled the study group because Brent not only thinks he doesn't need it, but because he got a B+ in ethics at Princeton and thinks he should probably be the one leading it. So clearly Brent isn't getting better and Chidi isn't compelled to help him. On top of this, Tahani is still trying to figure out how to get to John, all while Janet is giving her bad advice. It was weird that Janet was giving bad advice, but you know, whatever. Tahani's idea is to lean into what John craves, exclusivity, and an invitation to it. Unfortunately, John just takes it for granted and doesn't seem to make any headway. So now we've got Chidi not helping people, Brent still being a dick, and John no closer to realizing that he was a dick on Earth. We also get no update on Simone. Maybe she's doing better, but who knows? So what do we need to do? Ratchet up the pressure on poor Chidi, of course. How will they do that? By having Jason do what he had already done previously. Though this version of Jason doesn't know that. He confesses to Chidi that he's not a monk named Jianyu, and he's not supposed to be there. Interestingly, they end up pushing Chidi so hard that he actually starts to think he's being punished, which makes Eleanor cry. There's a great moment from Chidi when he says, "I made God cry?" Now the final straw for Chidi is when Jason throws his wishing rock into the circle and gets a motorcycle with Pam Anderson's boobs drawn on it, which is just wow. And then Chidi actually pretends the bike is his, which was an unusual lie for Chidi. Also quite funny. Now Jason had told a story about the bike and how he wanted to know what would happen if he filled the gas tank with lighter fluid. And unsurprisingly, it blew up. This leads to a great visual joke where Chidi asks to destroy the bike, saying that that's his problem, not Jason, who is his actual problem. And we see the bike blow up in front of Jason and he just goes, "Not again!" Of course, when Chidi sees Jason later and apologizes about the bike, Jason is super zen about it, saying it wasn't his fault, that's just what motorcycles do. Meanwhile, Tahani is trying to figure out what makes John tick, and eventually she decides that she should just come out and tell him that his blog was hurtful to her. Then John, clearly on the defensive, calls her out for not having to work for anything, while he did. And I mean, he's not wrong, but he is wrong about Tahani's motives. All seems to be lost here until Tahani realizes that she can align with John because they share the same feeling of jealousy about status, or as she would say it, status. This connection seems to work, and this seems to be the only one going in a positive direction. Now the show wants the audience to believe that things are going well with Chidi as well, because he's back to helping people. The problem here is that he's helping Jason, which doesn't matter. But regardless of how well Chidi is or isn't doing, we get some true vulnerability from Eleanor, who admits to being angry at Chidi for leaving her, which was actually pretty touching. We move on with Tahani and Jason patting themselves on the back and Eleanor saying, "What's next?" A foreboding question as we immediately cut to see a dark figure in a Jedi cloak riding the rails in a handcar, presumably on his or her way to the neighborhood in Mindy's backyard. What will this mean? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go to the rank.
A rank.
The rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh out loud. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before we dive into the rankings, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. Sorry to pander. It's just, I gotta do it. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the rankings. First category is story, and I gave story a 3. So the story is to figure out what makes everyone tick and how they can convince Chidi to start helping people. The problem is that they only figure out John, and they already know Chidi, and the only person he's helping is Jason, who doesn't matter. Brent is still a gaping hole here, and it feels like a hole in the plot of the episode because of it. And what's happening with Simone? Nothing? So let's go to acting, which I gave a 5. I'll forever love the acting on this show. I thought everyone was excellent. Kristen Bell seems to be the standout this season. I hope she gets recognized for it, but I feel like she won't. So let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 3.25. It's a funny episode. Not the funniest they've ever done, but still really funny. I didn't go higher because of most of what I'm going to say for the next category, so I'll head to that, which is episode coherence, which I gave a 2.25. I hinted at this already in story, but the everything is on track mentality at the end of the episode doesn't really fit with the reality that they're in. They don't have a handle on Brent, so I don't see how they came to this determination. They also don't address Simone at all in the episode. It just feels incoherent because they're claiming they're further along than they're actually showing us. And that gets us to our last category, which is character relatability, which I gave a 5. They all continue to be incredibly relatable characters, and maybe I'm crazy, but I just feel like there's so much depth with all these characters, even the new ones.
He's crazy.
All right, so we've had an up and down ranking here. So if we have a decent laugh counter, then it will end up in the top 3 tiers. If not, it might end up being one of the very few Good Place episodes that don't end up in the top 3 tiers. But the laugh counter was a 15, so pretty decent. And that puts the episode total at a 33.5, which means I'd watch it again. And this puts the series average at a 38, which is in the holy grail. And actually, notice it's been going down just a little bit every episode here. All right, so thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankedpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider becoming a patron on our Patreon account at patreon.com/therankedpodcast, where you can get access to all of our archived episodes. And once again, just to remind you, if you liked the episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help us out. But I will leave you with this. Why does Chidi always cut his ice with an axe?
Let's hear it.
Because he loves chillaxing. Ooh, wonder what Antonio will say to that.
That actually was pretty funny.
Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John.
Froze up again.
Now, if you're enjoying these episodes or you just enjoy consuming content about The Good Place and
He does this from time to time.